The final episode of Olympo's Season 1 offers a tense, emotional, and highly revealing conclusion to a story rooted in the dark underbelly of elite sports. The episode unfolds in the high-stakes environment of the Pyrenees High Performance Center, HPC, where young athletes are not only battling each other for a spot at the World Championships, but also confronting personal demons, systemic abuse, and the blurred lines between ambition and ruthlessness. The world within the HPC is ruled not just by talent, but by the shadowy influence of the Olympo sports brand, which sponsors athletes and deploys questionable methods to sculpt champions. The episode focuses on the aftermath of a swimmer's collapse, a moment that ripples outward, igniting Amaya's investigation and setting all the key players on a search for truth, justice, or survival. Throughout the episode, the omnipresence of Olympo is felt like a vivid, oppressive force. Their banner looms over the athletes. Their sponsorship seems to buy not only marketing but compliance at all levels. Athletes whisper about tips to the agency, blood tests are administered to sniff out doping, and the officials themselves act as if they have little real power compared to the dictates of the Olympo Corporation. The thematic through-line here is clear. In this universe, institutional power and personal ambition conspire to create an environment where morality is flexible and ideals are compromised. The episode wastes no time in thrusting viewers into the logistical and emotional chaos of a championship weekend. Amaya, the protagonist, stands at the moral and emotional crux of the season, increasingly isolated, hounded by her mother's cruel expectations, and tormented by the ethical rot at the heart of her world. Her journey is mirrored and refracted through other characters, Zoe, Renata, Nuria, and Hugo, each representing a different way of responding to the suffocating pressures of high-performance sports. Amaya in this episode is a portrait of disillusionment. Haunted by failure, her recent defeat to Fatima and the constant, lacerating criticism from her mother, she is also the only character truly willing to interrogate the cost of success at the Pyrenees HPC. Amaya's mother serves as a particularly ruthless interlocutor for the toxic ideology that pervades the system. "We're not envious women, Amaya. We're disciplined. Get up. You only win if you work hard. The rest is just excuses. And excuses are for losers." These words encapsulate one of the season's core themes, that the line between discipline and self-destruction is perilously thin, and that those who fail to toe it are not just penalized but dehumanized even by those closest to them. Her emotionally abusive mother is not simply a villain but the embodiment of an entire culture, an inheritance of denial, pressure, and sacrifice. The repeated phrase, "Stretch your leg, point your toe, you're not my daughter if you're beaten," shows how the demand for victory is internalized so ruthlessly that love itself becomes contingent on achievement. Yet this personal torment reflects the broader moral compromise at the heart of the HPC, where doping is rampant, risk is normalized, and athletes' health is sacrificed on the altar of national pride and brand loyalty. While Amaya wrestles with her doubts, institutional forces move in the background. The agency's presence, conducting blood tests, is met with both alarm and resignation. Characters like Jana and Hugo, responsible for calibrating the doping, are constantly under threat of exposure, and the clandestine nature of their work is emphasized by private conversations, coded warnings, and expressions of fear. "You told me they'd treat my hand, not that I'd stop feeling pain in my whole body. You need to undo whatever you did to me." These scenes underscore the literal and metaphorical numbing inflicted by the system. Athletes not only lose sensation in their bodies due to treatments, but are emotionally blunted by the relentless demands of performance. Zoe, another central figure in the episode, is caught in her own moral and existential crisis. The threat of being caught for doping hangs over her, even as she wonders if it's worth continuing at all. After all, she has already witnessed the dangers through the collapse and injury of others. But the costs are not only personal. Sponsorships, promises of legal help, and career prospects are dangled enticingly in front of the athletes as leverage. When Zoe is suddenly expelled from HPC after a victory, in a moment that appears arbitrary but is actually a calculated application of institutional discipline, she is stunned to realize just how conditional every promise has been. The phrase, "Olympo's sponsorship is off. You're expelled," lands with cutting finality, exposing the transactional cruelty at play. The betrayal is total. Every supposed gain, from legal protection to team support, is instantly rescinded upon deviation from the desired script. Zoe's expulsion also reflects the willingness of Olympo and its affiliates to discard even their most successful assets if they threaten the stability of the system. Renata, meanwhile, is depicted as another casualty of the high-performance environment, furious and almost self-destructive after her defeat. Her dialogue with her mother reveals how deep the indoctrination of relentless effort and self-sacrifice runs. Her anger is not just at failure, but at a sense of personal betrayal. "You have no idea what hard work means. Neither do you," she rages at her teammates. The rivalries among the athletes are fanned by the system itself, pitting them against one another for resources, attention, and even the right to compete. This serves as a commentary on how elite sports can twist camaraderie into competition and mentorship into manipulation. There are constant echoes throughout the episode of the central motif, the lengths to which people will go for victory, and the cost extracted from those who fall short or break the rules. Viewers witness repeated cycles of ambition, betrayal, pain, and numbness. The athletes' bodies are not just trained but experimented upon. Medical intervention is frequent and dubious, with the lines between treatment and chemical enhancement utterly blurred. The contrast between the public facade, cheering crowds, banners, and medals, and the hidden suffering backstage is drawn in sharp relief. By the episode's midpoint, the mechanisms by which Olympo and its acolytes maintain control are fully exposed. Fear, shame, and the threat of being expelled or reported to authorities keep everyone in check. Even when whistleblowing seems possible. "We're going to report Olympo." The likelihood of real accountability remains shadowed by power imbalances, lack of evidence, and ingrained cynicism. The anti-doping girl label given to Zoe after her defiance shows how quickly roles can be reassigned as the machinery of discipline grinds on. The episode culminates in the duet competition for synchronized swimming, a dazzling, suspenseful display of talent, poise, and underlying tension. The performance by Amaya and Nuria is described as impossible, pushing the limits of what is believed to be humanly achievable. "How many have they done? 13? That's impossible." "No fucking way, Amaya." The competition is both real and metaphoric, demonstrating how beauty and grace are inextricably linked to pain and compromise within this world. The subsequent conversation between Amaya and Nuria serves as a climax, both emotionally and thematically. Nuria laughs at the American dream that Amaya and her mother still believe in, the notion that effort alone can triumph, that hard work is the only requirement for victory. "It's not hard work that makes you win. It's about how far you're willing to go." This exchange crystallizes the show's central critique, that the narrative of meritocracy and self-help is a comforting lie when corruption is the real currency, and those who are willing to go further, to dope, cheat, hurt themselves or others, gain the advantage. The exchange is also deeply tragic. Both women, battered and alienated, can see that the system has warped their friendship, twisted their self-image, and robbed them of true joy in their achievements. Interestingly, the episode does not offer cathartic closure. The reporting of Olympo is resolved ambiguously. Although Amaya and her allies gather with witnesses, in hopes of exposing the company, they are keenly aware of the limits of their power. "Without evidence, we're fucked." Legally and morally, the show suggests truth is not enough. The system is built to protect itself, requiring more than bravery or honesty from those who challenge it. Even as reporting Olympo appears as a righteous act, it's tinged with futility and the specter of retaliation. The show's final sequence is filled with both hope and resignation. The performance is finished, applause rings out, and yet we see characters packing up, leaving, and wondering about their futures. Olympo's representatives remain secretive, discussing quietly what to do if they find out what we're doing. Even victory is ambiguous. Athletes are expelled or sidelined at the whim of the system, and those who succeed do so at profound personal cost. The branding of Amaya and Nuria as a pair, a big round of applause for the artistic swimming duet, seems hollow in light of all that has transpired. The victory is tainted, earned not only on the basis of merit but by surviving a gauntlet of moral and physical injury. Symbolically, the competition represents the dual forces at play in elite sports: perfection on the surface, rot beneath. The repeated rhythm of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is both a literal count for the routine and a metaphor for conformity, submission, and the relentless march of time toward burnout or replacement. The number 13, highlighted as an impossible goal, suggests both the breaking of boundaries and a brush with the superstitious. Winning at all costs may bring victory, but also a curse. Throughout the episode, personal relationships are cast against the cold reality of institutional inertia. Apologies are exchanged, but the damage is often irreparable. Seabass pleads for forgiveness, only to be rebuffed. Zoe, expelled and humiliated, has to navigate life outside the institution that defined her existence. Amaya's confrontation with Nuria is layered with years of friendship and rivalry, ending not in reconciliation but in mutual recognition of their shattered dreams. The theme of exposure, both literal and figurative, runs through the finale. From the opening moments, where the agency is tipped off about doping, through the attempts by Amaya and her allies to report Olympo, to the final, ambiguous outcome, the question of what will come to light and who will pay the price looms large. The institution protects itself, witnesses feel powerless, and the specter of retaliation always hangs overhead. The show ends on a note that is neither triumph nor tragedy but a somber mix of both. The applause following the duet does not dispel the knowledge of all that has been lost, nor does it promise redemption. Instead, Olympo's hold over sport remains, shadowy but unbroken. Some athletes walk away, others are forced out, and a few manage a defiant stand. Yet the system itself is unchanged, and the tools by which it oppresses, medical interventions, secrecy, shame, manipulation, remain intact. Where Olympo stands out among sports dramas is in its refusal to offer neat resolutions or heroes who are unblemished by the events of the series. Instead, the show exposes the contradictions at the heart of competitive sport, that it can inspire beauty and greatness, but often only by inflicting pain and demanding compromise. The motif of the American dream is held up as a false beacon, critiqued as a myth that cannot withstand the reality of institutionalized doping, exploitative contracts, and zero-sum competition. The show also deconstructs the narrative of pure meritocracy, suggesting that only those willing or able to cheat, lie, or endure abuse can truly win. Comparisons can be drawn to works like Whiplash or Black Swan, which also explore the costs of artistic excellence in environments that conflate suffering with achievement. In those stories, as in Olympo, protagonists are both privileged and victimized, their brilliance inseparable from pain. Olympo's edge is in its depiction of institutional corruption and its focus on the complicity required at every level, from coaches and sponsors to teammates and parents. Characters like Amaya and Zoe ultimately embody the existential crisis of the modern athlete: how to define self-worth when victory is poisoned, how to retain integrity amid constant pressure to betray it, and how to find meaning outside a sport that has shaped, and perhaps ruined, them. Their struggles are mirrored in every tense moment and emotional outburst, as well as every calculated decision by Olympo officials. The broader significance of the ending lies in this indeterminacy. The show refuses to assure us that the good will prevail, or that the truth will out. Instead, it leaves viewers with a challenge: to recognize the enormity of what is lost, to injury, to shame, to institutional violence, every time a system values victory over humanity. The symbolism of numbness is key here, not just physical, from drugs, exhaustion, medical intervention, but moral and emotional. When Amaya's teammate cannot feel her own body anymore, it stands as a metaphor for athletes who are taught to bear everything, until they feel nothing at all. In sum, the finale of Olympo Season 1 is a chilling indictment of high-performance sports culture, exposing both its seductive beauty and the moral devastation it wreaks. Rather than glorifying triumph, it shows that every medal may come drenched in pain, and every victory may actually signal defeat on a deeper, more human level. The suggestion that reporting Olympo is only the beginning, not the end, of resistance, that the rod is so deep it cannot be cut out by a single act, is a sobering recognition of how power protects itself, and how cycles of abuse may continue. In the world of Olympo, the question remains, who will dare to speak out next, and what will it cost them? This ambiguity, more than any single plot twist, forms the heart of the finale, demanding viewers look past the surface to the lived reality beneath.